Time now to get the latest trends in dive retailing, travel, and training with Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Now, here's your host, Scuba Radio's Greg the Dive Master.
And that is me. Welcome to Level Up. I am Greg the Dive Master. Check out Scuba Radio every Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern Time. However, today we're doing the official podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. And we have quite a group of folk to do the show today for the first edition of 2026. First, I go to Willie Klein, the man behind the madness. Willie, how you doing? And Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you and all of our great riders. We're going to get started here in just 2 seconds, but I'm going to start out by saying thank you to everybody on this issue. This was an absolutely fabulous issue. I think we had something like 18 articles in there, and we appreciate everybody's participation today. And thank you to all of our contributors, which were up to 60, and we just celebrated 2 years this issue. So
nice.
our 2-year anniversary was this exact issue. So thank you very much for everybody. 23 dive shops specifically writing for us, in addition to all you wonderful people out there. So let's get this going today, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an exciting year, and to kick it off, the first edition for 2026, we go to the man, Dan. Dan Orr is on his way to one of the poles, I believe. Is that right, Dan, or what?
Antarctica. Yeah, I'm in Ushuaia, Argentina right now, and we actually have a group of 90 people here who are on a citizen science expedition. And in fact, in about 15 minutes, I have a meeting with all of them to kind of outline what their responsibilities are during the almost 3 weeks that we're going to be down here in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it like stay warm, don't die, or is there more to it than that?
Well, yeah, try to stay warm. I mean, the water temperature was measured where we're going to go at about 28 degrees.
Woo!
Oh, gee. Wow.
Here comes the shrinkage. Just talking about it.
And you know what's cool is that's a great segue into the title, into your article.
That's right.
It is.
Yeah. Page 6 of the latest edition of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Why your customers need to dive their experience, not their C card. So, I've been diving a few years. I mean, and I don't even bother with my C card. But what can you tell us in that regard? As far as the article you wrote there, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's important to tell the people that we train, the people that we deal with, that there is a difference between being certified and being qualified to dive. Because the certification, of course, is a process where you do the academics, you do the skill training in a pool, you get a certification card that indicates that at that point in time you are qualified to enjoy the open water safely. But qualification is really different. Qualification is more of a dynamic process. It really has to do with a particular period in time when your skills are where they should be to do the things you need to do to be a safe and competent diver. And in fact, when you travel, and of course, as you know, I do travel a lot, and a lot of times I'll be selecting a buddy and then I'll talk to them about their background, and they'll say, well, I've been certified for 10 years. And that means absolutely nothing to me. That means their certification card has been in their wallet or purse for 10 years, has nothing to do with their abilities. I want to know about the last dive they made. I want to know about how the dive was, where they were diving, what the conditions were, to see if they are indeed qualified to dive rather than just simply being certified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got to talk the game. You know, they may say, they've been diving for 10 years. Then you look over at their regulator and you see it's set up upside down or something like that. Or they forgot to put on their fins, or before they jumped off the liveaboard boat. Yeah, it's happened, right?
Yeah, and it's really especially important for the kind of things we do here, because everybody has to have a lot of background in diving before you do an Antarctic trip, because, of course, you're dealing in very challenging conditions. And a lot of people, including myself, when I come here to scuba dive, I'll actually take a day or two beforehand to do dives here in the Beagle Channel to make sure that my skills are where they should be before I start doing dives in a much more challenging environment.
Right. Well, yeah, that is good information regardless. Any other special questions you have to ask them for like a trip like you're on right now? Because, I mean, you're diving some pretty extreme stuff, right? It's fairly chilly.
Yeah. And for one thing, the people that do dives in these conditions, not only do they have to have medical qualifications be signed off by a physician or a medical professional, but they also have to prove that they have a certain number of open water dives with a dry suit and the condition of diving, because you simply don't want to be here doing diving in 28-degree water without a dry suit on.
Right.
So people have to really prove as best they can those qualifications. So they have to be signed off by somebody that is familiar with their abilities.
All right. Well, I want to see the video of you doing the polar bear plunge.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Shed the dry suit and just show us how it's done there, Dan.
So, Greg, something interesting. We're starting a new program called Pros Picks, and we're going to categorize and actually rank all the articles since we launched 2 years ago. And you just happen to be interviewing the #1 most read article of all of our editorial is Dan Orr's October 2024 article on the 4 Ps of scuba diving safety. So congratulations. You're going to get a little award for it. It's going to be on our website, all that stuff. But anyhow, we're going to go through by category and rank each one. And I just so happens to pull that up today that you were the #1. So thank you for your great work.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Oh yeah, you
it's
got
a great
it.
Magazine.
Well, we'll let you go there, Dan, because I know you got to go wrap up in something warm.
Yeah, stay warm
for what you're about to do.
Okay, take care, everybody.
Safe travels.
Good to
see you all.
Absolutely.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
to
you. Yeah.
Now we go from Argentina to all the way across the pond to Cyprus.
That's right.
In the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
So,
are you going to say her name, or am I going to attempt to butcher it?
Please do it. Please butcher it first, and I'll tell you how it is.
Yeah. Burcu.
Burju.
Sounds French to me, but what do I know? And
no, it's definitely Turkish.
Yes, I figured as much.
So Burjo came to us about 2 months ago, actually. Maybe it's almost 3 when he actually sent us the article. And we've been trying to find a time to run this article and a slot, because we try to have our editorial kind of planned and to some degree. And it is just a fantastic piece. And I'm going to let her talk about it. But if you haven't had a chance to look at her article, go ahead, Greg, give her the intro, because it's just really, really remarkable.
Yeah, well, it's on page 12 of the latest issue. Women in Diving, How Leadership Strengthens Safety and Growth. So the question is, you wrote about the disparity of women at professional levels. Why do you think that exists, Burcu? I say I did it again. Say it one more time.
It's Burcu, and not very. It's a very common thing. Okay, when it comes with the interest from the women at scuba diving, it's there. When we start from the beginner levels, we've got so many women are starting. But when it comes to become a leader to the leadership level, then and the drop is getting really, really visible. When we're talking about the divers who are starting to diving, almost half of them are women. But when it comes to the instructor level, when it comes to the dive operators or the leaders in the industry, it just goes really, really low. Dive shop owners or instructors are around the 20%. If we are talking about the actual leaders, it's actually 10 or 4% in some of the places.
Wow.
So this is a huge issue. And it's not because there is no interest. It's not because there is the lack of capability, but it's the system is there. And also we have a scuba culture. Mm-hmm. It's there. And when people are thinking about the actual scuba instructor, they're always thinking about a certain profile. And that is not exactly a woman looking like me. It's mostly, really tall guy, tanned, carrying 3-4 tanks on their back. And this is the stereotype of the scuba instructor. But we have to challenge that, because there are so many good women who can become a leader. And also that there is so much benefits to having more women in the leadership position of the scuba diving.
I totally agree. I mean, and as far as breaking that mold of the bulky, guy carrying 3 tanks, I think I fit that bill pretty good as far as someone who can't do that. So I'm doing my part.
Like all of us.
But maybe not enough there. But I agree. We need more women in leadership positions. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
We need systems to help the women to stay in the scuba diving. Because when we're talking about with the scuba diving instructors or the new scuba divers, and when they want to become a scuba diving instructor, they're always, I'm talking about the women, of course, there's a hesitation because they're not feeling really welcome. Mm-hmm. They're not feeling that their style of teaching is really what it's the way it's want. Because so most of the time, women are seeing more soft, but softness doesn't mean it's bad thing. There are so many things that a woman can bring to the industry. And by the way, I would like to apologize in advance. It's 11 p.m. here, way past of my bedtime. So please give me a little bit of slack with that.
No, you don't need it.
Burcu, I thought one of the interesting things you had in your article was on page 13. You were talking about invest in fit and comfort, how that dive shops should and resorts should invest in the proper size equipment. You quote a CBIU dive tourism study in 2023 that confirms what you see every day is what you wrote. Dive centers invest in fit and accessibility see 12 to 17% higher repeat bookings. I mean, that's
That
just
is correct.
that's dollars and cents. You know, that's massive for a very small investment to have the right size for your customers.
You know, most of the people are not aware of it, but women are talking online. Okay, right now the communication is different. We've got our own groups, we've got our own forums, and there are so many women-only scuba divers groups that you can find on the social media. And if the first thing that most of the women are having the hesitation or even feeling embarrassed is if I'm going to find a, correct size for my body, especially if they're on the leaning on the plus size. That is never
Right.
a problem for a man because usually a wetsuit goes up to 4X large. But a 4X large is for a man is like 190. I'm talking about
Right.
meters because I'm from the Europe, so sorry guys.
Right.
I don't do the feet and pounds. I'm sorry, but we're almost talking about a 2 meters man. We don't find a woman usually on 2 meters. So when they find a shop that has the correct size of the equipment that fits to their body, and it's quite easy actually. It's not a difficult thing to be able to put some woman size over there.
Right.
Woman cut actually, not just a size. I'm talking about a different cuts because we have different bodies. It just changes so much. It just changes the perspective for the woman, and it brings more clients. And people, and especially women, are talking about, and they say, okay, this brand, it stores this. Let's buy this brand. Or they say, okay, when you go to Cyprus, go to X dive shop because they have the sizes, and it's just a really good way of retaining more clients.
That's excellent. Very
Absolutely.
well said. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm going to challenge you to keep writing for us because you've had some great insights, and I think that there's a lot more you could lend and continue those articles coming. Our deadline, by the way, everybody, is on the 15th every month, so don't forget. Okay.
There you go. And
Thank
I
you, Billy.
agree. We
Thank you,
need more
guys.
women in diving,
Yes,
which brings
exactly.
us to our next one, who's like a rock star in her own right. Doesn't matter if she's a woman or a guy. It wouldn't matter. She's a rock star any way you look at it. I'm talking about Catherine Castle Garcia, page 32 in the January issue. Well, January DEMA do-over schedule and more books is the name of the article she wrote for the latest issue. So what does the DEMA do-over actually mean there, rock star Catherine Garcia? What do you think there, Catherine?
Everybody, I hope you can hear me okay. I'm coming to you live from a road trip. C2G2 Productions is just wrapping up a trip from Catalina and finishing that. So we're transiting. But the DEMA do-over is, first of all, who remembers DEMA?
I remember it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a great show.
It was great, but it was 7 weeks ago, and then Thanksgiving and Santa Claus and New
Right.
Year's Eve and all the things, plus closing out the quarter and ending a year. And a lot of things have happened in our minds since we attended DEMA, really excited about business growth and making certain changes in our businesses. So what I'm going to do is offer all next week what I'm calling the DEMA do-over, which is a Zoom session every day from the 12th through the 16th that repeat one of the sessions that I presented at DEMA. I was very fortunate to be a DEMA featured speaker for 2 sessions last year at the show. And then I was also sponsored by Deep Blue Adventures, who's one of your advertisers in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, and TDI-SDI sponsored me as well. So I was very busy, met a lot of people, and shared a lot of great ideas. And for those people that got to attend one of my sessions, here's the chance for the do-over to refresh what we talked about. And for those who didn't have the chance to attend, now's your chance, because each day we'll go over a different topic, and we'll have about an hour together on Zoom. We'll go over the sessions, have time for Q&A, and also have time for individual networking so that people can talk to one another about what they took home from DEMA, what's working for them, and what their goals are for the future. So it's just a really great reset to get your dive business off to a fresh new start for the new year.
Love it.
Yeah. I love this idea. I think it's great.
Yeah. What about
in order to
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to tell us how we can join this Zoom session, I assume, next, right?
Yes. So to join, you need to email me in order to get the link. So just email me hello@Clear Story Coach. I will send you a synopsis of each of the sessions. I'll send you the link and the password. And if you have any questions, you'll have a way to email me back and forth. And we can, if you have questions in advance that you want to pose and have me answer, then that's what we'll do.
Good.
Very cool.
Give that email out one more time, Catherine. Make sure we get it clear for everyone.
Yeah, it is hello@clearstorycoach.com.
There you go.
Very
Absolutely.
cool.
All right.
All right.
And it's next week. So don't waste any time getting in touch with me to get the session information and the link. It's 12 through 16 January.
All
Hello
right.
at clearstorycoach.com.
Excellent.
That's great.
Good stuff. Yeah. I mean,
That's great.
DEMA does kind of
That's
inject you
all I
with a
got.
ton of energy, and then, we hit the holidays and maybe fall off the wagon a little bit. This might be a good way to
Yeah.
inject that energy back into your business sense. All right, let's move on to our next
Right.
rock star, who also happens to be of the female persuasion. Margot Payton is with us. Page 30 of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, Why Investing in a Child's Dive Gear Matters. So tell us what a dive retailer really needs to know, Margot, about selling gear to children and their families. What do you think?
Well, I'd like to touch base on some of the things that Borju stated with women too. I mean, kids and families walk into a dive store. I think seeing kids' gear available, kids' sizes creates trust. It creates recognition. It creates, wow, this is a family-friendly dive shop. They've invested in family. They've invested in kids. And I think it creates a warmth, a trust, and an excitement for the kids. I think kids' gear is very important if your dive operation is really looking to attract families and wanting to have kids as a part of the future of that dive shop's business. I think for children, having their own set of gear creates a confidence. It creates safety, a level of safety for them and recognition, being able to dive with their own BCDs, their own fins, masks, and snorkels, even having their own regulators. There's lots of differences in comforts and sizes, and it's really difficult to fit kids into standard rental gear. I mean, kids come in all shapes and sizes, just like women do. And I think that, when we can have kids in good fitting, snug, comfortable gear, it really determines whether they're going to stick with scuba diving and whether they're going to continue and whether they're going to have fun. And I think, very much like women, that first experience is key. And you need to make it engaging and exciting, and you need to make them feel important and welcome. And there's nothing like that, than walking into a dive shop and seeing, youth BCDs on the wall, small mouthpieces, and fun colors too. One of the things I wrote about in my article is that it does create a trust for the parents. It creates a fun atmosphere for the kids, and it keeps them engaged. And I think this is something that's very necessary for our dive shops to be able to be doing in today's environment. And, one of the things, I do understand that gear can be very expensive for families, but, one of the things that's working for a lot of people that I talk to is secondhand, gear. If kids take really good care of their gear, and when they're done or they've outgrown it, they turn it into that dive shop and it's reserviced and working well. It can be, you can give a credit for that BCD or that fins, mask, snorkel set for a new set. You can have a special night where kids can exchange or families can exchange gear, or with families with multiple children, they can pass gear down as long as it's maintained and serviced with their dive shop. There's lots of ways to make this easy, and again, that does keep kids and families coming through that door.
And Margot, to add exclamation at that point. Bob Hathaway, we did an interview with him on one of our other podcast series called From Behind the Counter. It's retailer to retailer talk. And he talked about his program called Captain Kid, I believe is what he calls it. And he does that. They sell an entire set to the children, and then they allow them as they grow to upgrade their gear, turn it in. They give them credit for it, so it's easier, it's softer on the parent's wallet, and that's exactly the program they use, and it works brilliantly for him. So thank you. If you haven't read her series, I think you're third or fourth into the series of 9 that you've been writing for us, go back, and the easiest way to find it, go to our website, scubadivingindustry.com, and just search for the word Margot. All your articles will pop up. And every one of them are fantastic insight if you're a retailer out there about working with. I love the multi-generation approach that you have, Margot, that it's not just about certifying the parents or the kids, but it's about bringing the grandparents into the fold because they can help pay for the travel or whatever it might be. So just some great marketing ideas.
Thank you, Willie. And thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. All right. Well, next up, we're going to the BVI's. Jeff McNutt, page 35, wrote an article, From First Breath to Full Circle, My Journey to Owning a Dive Center in the Island. So, Jeff, tell us, you're evidently a kid from Texas. How did you end up running a dive operation in the BVI's, of all places? You're living the dream, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, it was unlike Dan. I was diving in 28 degrees this week, but that was 28C,
Yes.
which is
God
which
bless
is
ya.
much better. I went on vacation, and it was the best of times. It was the worst of times, and ended up going down for a year before I had kids and settled down. And I still don't have kids, and I've never settled down. So still living the dream.
There you go.
Well, he's being very shy about this because he happened to be coming through Dallas, him and his lovely wife, Casey, and we went to lunch, and he started telling me his story, and I'm like, Jeff, my gosh, you got to write that story. It's amazing. He's not just been a dive operator. You were, 23? You were the dive store manager for International Scuba here in Dallas, right?
That's right.
Right. And then went on to have stints at SSI as a Caribbean representative and manager, worked for Aggressor for years. So, I mean, you've got a huge in-depth background. He goes into a little bit of in his article. It's a great read, how you ended up running an incredible operation down there.
And it's been just, a lot of work, but I just, 3 solid weeks. I got my first day off yesterday when I flew back home to Georgia. So that was a relaxing day on 3 airlines, but it's, it's something that I never thought I would do, but I can't think of doing anything else. So I took a little break and traveled the world and came back to it. And that's my happy place.
Well, I was going to say a lot of your friends are probably super envious, or anyone listening right now, it probably is. But yeah, I would imagine you would be the first to say it's not as easy as it looks, but it's still very fulfilling. Am I right to assume such a thing?
It's very fulfilling. And we definitely have those moments where we go, oh, they don't show you this in the dive magazines.
What were we thinking? Oh my God. Right.
So part of what fascinated me was that Jeff's able to be away from his business and it still runs. And anybody that's been in the tropical resort industry knows that it's absolutely just the biggest challenges for an owner to get away for, let alone a vacation or a week, let alone getting away for months at a time that he can. And so I said, well, how do you do that? He says, well, we have standard procedures for everything. And so that's really the second article that I hope he's going to write for us, is how to create that set of standards and procedures and operating manual that gives you the ability to have that freedom as a business owner. And because diving is no different than any other business, we just don't have an educational system to teach people in our industry about how to do some of these basic things. So hopefully, Jeff, you can work on a series for us for that, because I was fascinated by that approach you have.
It was a game changer for us. It allows I can speed the training process up when I'm talking to potential employees. And I'm happy to share that with them even before they work with me. There's not any good ideas left. We just borrow them from each other. So I want to try to get as much of that out there in the world. And one of my biggest things is, when somebody comes up and says, hey, man, when are you going to quit this and get a real job? And that's just the biggest insult to, true dive professionals.
Right.
It's like,
but you still
you're
get
right,
to turn
right.
You get to turn it around on them, though.
Yeah.
But you do get to turn it around on them and just say, well, I could get a real job, but that would take away the opportunity right now to say, suck it, loser. I'm in the BVI,
That's right.
You're not.
I live where you vacation is usually my go-to.
Exactly.
That's great. Great.
Good stuff,
Great,
Jeff.
great
Good.
article. Thanks again, Jeff. Thanks for being with
Thanks
us.
for
He's
having
new to
me.
us, so it's wonderful to have you on the show.
There you
Thanks
go.
for the welcome. Cheers.
All right. Next up, we got David and Lily. Talk a little bit about travel on page 30 or 43 of Dive Industry Magazine. A group dive guide to the Philippines. So when a customer comes to a dive shop and says, "We want it all," where do you recommend they send them? To the Philippines?
Okay,
I'm just guessing.
hold on. I
Nope.
got to point out
All
this
right.
beautiful cover that we're looking at right here
Yeah.
of a Christmas tree worm, which graced our December issue, was shot by Lily. This
Aha.
is a uncolor corrected image. We didn't even convert it to CMYK. She literally sent it to me, and I dropped it directly into the magazine's cover, and that's what it came out. You should have them in the
Nice.
mail today, by the way. I got mine today in the mail, but it is absolutely just stunning. So well done,
Yeah.
Lily. Sorry, I've got the background thing on, but
With AI, you could have added ornaments, Willie.
Maybe.
yeah, I could
We're a
have, but it
month
does.
behind.
When you look at it, it actually has little tiny
I
little
know.
Christmas
You don't
tree
need
balls on the front of it. It's really quite spectacular. So thank you,
Mhm.
Lily. Back to the editorial.
Yeah.
Okay, so when your customers say they want it all, then they should consider heading to the South Pacific to an area known as the Coral Triangle. And this area is known for the most biodiversity on the planet. So one of the countries in the Coral Triangle is the Philippines, which is what our article is about. So for example, the Philippines has over 3,200 species of fish, nearly 500 species of coral, and over 1,400 crustaceans. That's a good place to say to find it all.
Yeah, this is a area that's located just above the equator, so it's providing warm water. And due to geographical influences, there was no ice during the Ice Age in the Coral Triangle. So this allowed biodiversity to come up there, and so all sorts of different species to form and prosper and diversify, both under the waves and on the land. While marine life is spectacular, as what Lily mentioned, all the different types of fish and things that you can see, on land there's over 13,500 plant species in the many forests in the country, and over 3,000 of those can only be found in the Philippines.
Wow,
And the same goes true for mammals, reptiles, birds, where hundreds of species are endemic to that area.
that's amazing.
Yeah. So the challenge of trying to see it all in the Philippines is that all this diversity is scattered over 7,641 islands, depending on sea level. And then that's covering an area of almost 116,000 square miles, or about 300,000 square kilometers. That's a lot of territory to cover on a dive trip. But luckily, there are many popular dive destinations, like all around the Verde Island Passage area or around Cebu, where you can see most of the biodiversity and many critters that most divers probably haven't seen before in their dives.
Yeah, the Philippine government recognizes that the dive travel industry is a major source of income, for the country, and they've actually installed over 1,800 marine protected areas across the island to ensure that biodiversity stays there and remains an attraction. There are seamounts and reefs there where, they're so populated with all sorts of marine creatures that it sort of reminds you of seeing the streets of Manhattan during rush hour. It's so busy in there, and it's a lot of places. It's a challenge to see a patch of open blue water without fish in it.
It's amazing.
And if you're more into shipwrecks than reefs, Philippines also offers that option as well. There were many sea battles around the islands during that saw World War II action, but also weather issues also throughout history caused a lot of shipwrecks. So you can dive a World War II era battleship in Subic Bay, or maybe even try to discover a lost galleon, since the Philippines has major ports for Spain's trade network in the Far East. Yes, the Philippines, it's a place where you can find it all.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, you know what? You
Thanks.
had me at warm water after talking
Yeah,
to
right.
Dan Orr in Antarctica. But
What I love about your article is, you gave a lot of really great tactical information. You broke it down to kind of big areas where you're going. Because if you're a dive shop and you're thinking about trying to book a group and you've never been there before, it's very daunting because it's not one place you go to. It's a very large, diversified area. So thank you. Great job on that.
As a matter of fact, we were there twice last year, total different areas to see totally different things.
well,
That's amazing.
it's on my list. I haven't been to that part of the world yet, but I got to get there for sure. Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks again, both of you.
All right. Up next, we have Gil Zeimer, page 39, a new approach to second stage is the technology behind the Planet 88X regulator. So what makes this second stage so different? Gil, tell us.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year, belatedly. So, for this article, Willie and I had the opportunity to talk to two executives at Mari's. One was the marketing director, and one was the chief technology officer, whose name was Dr. Sergio Angelini, and who lives in Italy or from Italy. And he actually had been developing this product for decades. He was an engineer at Scuba Pro, where he first had the idea of creating a spring-free regulator. And then he went to Mari's, and the way this is a game changer is this regulator only has 4 moving parts. Very simple.
The second stage,
multiple patents.
Yeah.
And so it has a seat, a rubber sealing pad, a single O-ring, and a pressure chamber. It does have a spring, but it doesn't. That's really not involved in the operation of it. And I had the opportunity to test dive it, as did Willie, as did Lily and David. And so I'll keep my remarks short here so they can weigh in too. But the way it's another industry game changer is that it is so simple because of its scarcity of parts that it's easy for any dive shop or dive operator to tune it up. And because it has fewer parts, reduced downtime, lower maintenance complexity, and longer surface intervals. So they've tested this on thousands of dives, and it's very easy to fix, and it's got a great track record. And I'll say what I thought of it, and then they can weigh in. I had a Mari's regulator for about 30 years that I would constantly have tuned up over the years. And when I test dove this one, it was really like you're not even breathing. I haven't ever dived with a rebreather, but Willie said it was similar to that. So I'll let them weigh in on it too.
Yeah, and the reason we don't normally test gear because we're not doing gear reviews here. This is an article about the technology behind it. I don't know if many of you have taken apart regulator second stages, but most of them depend on the same simple concept. And that is when you inhale, your breath creates a negative pressure in the chamber. That negative pressure draws in a diaphragm that's attached to a spring lever that opens up the airflow so that you can breathe. And there's a lot of varieties of ways they do air assisted. Once that valve starts to open, there's some cool things they do, like they do the Venturi effect. There's other regulators that can complement it, but it still takes that initial slight inhalation. And as a diver, like many of you for your whole life, I don't even think about it. I'm used to using rental regulators all over the world. I don't even think about breathing. I really don't, unless it's just a really, really hard breathing regulator. It's because we tune out that little hesitation that causes the valve to open because we've breathed millions of times underwater. So the first time of putting this in my mouth, I compared it to a rebreather because there was zero hesitation that you would normally have at the beginning of that breath, that microsecond when you start to inhale. There is none because it doesn't rely upon the same technology to open that valve. What happened is they fill the pressure with the actual second stage with pressure, unlike a typical regulator has no pressure in it until someone inhales or exhales through it. They fill it with pressure, and the minute you inhale and reduce that pressure inside there, it opens up the valve. So it's a pneumatic. It's called an aromatic as their technology. So it really is a game changer. The side benefit is the low number of moving parts, which works great for the tropics and for servicing. So
Good.
I'll let David and Lily chime in because I know that they got a chance. I think Lily got a chance to try it.
Yes. Well, I definitely, what I found with it is that it was extremely smooth because as a photographer, you're in all different orientations, and there was just no hesitation. It was just smooth breathing. Didn't matter what orientation you were in. I even did a few somersaults, and it just went smoothly.
Yeah, we all did a bunch of testing like that, upside down, all kinds of stuff, just trying to not to break it, but to find that point at which it breathes like a regular regulator, and we couldn't find it. Now, the first stage is just a piston regulator. It's a beautifully built, really nicely engineered regulator, but that's not the secret. The secret's in that second stage. That's what changes. It's going to be a game changer for our industry, I believe.
Very nice. It's always good to have new tech.
Yes.
Coming to the industry, like shot in the arm. All right, let's move on to our next writer. Page 24, The Power of Being a New Retailer. Rachel Connor's with us. So what's the superpower of being a new retailer. Rachel, explain. Do you get a cape and a mask or what?
Yeah, so for us, it's a new year, so new is really everywhere in the world. You see new goals, new resolutions, and a lot of times when you come into owning a dive shop and you're a new retailer, being new feels like it's your disadvantage. It feels like you didn't have enough time to learn everything. You're drinking from a fire hose, trying to figure everything out. I mean, talk about standard operating procedures. You're scrambling to get things in place. And so admitting that you're new is hard. But what we found, my husband and I, in coming into owning a dive shop over the last year, is that being new is actually your superpower. Um, we took the approach early on to really get to know the people that walked in the door. We told our story and said, hey, we're brand new. Here's us. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us what you do outside of diving. And it ended up opening up tons of opportunity. I talk a little bit about this theory, the strength of weak ties. It's a theory that was developed by Mark Gran Ovetter. And he was a psychologist that realized that your casual acquaintances, so your weak ties, are actually more valuable than the people that you know directly. And that's because they bridge these social networks and they really expand your network of opportunity. So we have a couple examples that we talk about in the article of just how we were able to really maximize those strength of weak ties to bring these large partnerships and reoccurring revenue our first year in business.
That's
Good
brilliant.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this series. And again, if you are considering buying a dive shop, you're considering selling a dive shop, we've got two great series. Dive Ventures wrote an entire series, about a 5-part series on selling a dive shop. And Rachel has written this beautiful, I think this is your third or fourth installment, maybe fifth installment now, has been writing a regular column every month. And we actually call it From Behind the Counter because we really want it to be from behind the counter. And she's really kind of taken us on that journey of how she did her due diligence, how they found the shop, how they handled the transition of customers, and now the power of weak ties, which is really, really an interesting concept that people kind of overlooked. And it just comes down to listening to your customers, right?
Yeah, I mean, we want to get in front of our customers, get out from behind the counter, and really get to know them. A lot of people that are divers that want to dive, that come in your shop, they want to see you succeed as well, especially as new owners. And so, really just getting to know them and asking them for help. Once you reach out to your customers, they may have some really good ideas to get partnerships off the ground or even just help you grow your business. And you won't know if you don't ask.
That's great. Well, thanks for this great series. I can't wait to see the next one. But it's really, I think it's resonating with our audience. I know because it's one of the most popular series.
Thank you so much, Will. I appreciate it.
Good stuff. All right, Jeff, Sincere and Pino is up with us the first time. For
2 years, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
We finally got the last name right.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Help yourself to the hot and cold salad bar. Page 27. Time to move on. Tips for discontinuing time with a distributor or manufacturer. So when is it time to make that kind of big decision there, Jeff? Like at the beginning of the year, like where we are now, or what?
Well, I don't think I think the timing of it is based on when you're ready as a dive retailer to make the move. But I think there's a lot of reasons why you might want to consider it. First of all, perhaps they want to change your dealer agreement to a point where it's just not going to be feasible for you to live up to those terms and conditions, or maybe their prices and increases are such that you're really feeling the pressure with your customers. I was over at the shop today just talking to them about, supply chains still, if you can't get the equipment, what good is the dealer agreement?
Right,
and
exactly.
what are you going to do with it? Or maybe the dealer or the distributor manufacturer is not keeping up with the technology and the innovation, and you really have customers that want something else. So there's a lot of reasons why you might want to consider dropping them, and you might want to make that decision pretty quickly. But I think you need to consider a few things on that. First of all, one, um, do you have suitable replacements? Do you have somebody lined up that you can depend on, that you have the gear that can replace what you're discontinuing? So that's an important piece of it. And then the second thing is, a lot of times our agreements have been longstanding. We've been with distributors or manufacturers for a long time, and we have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of inventory. So what are you going to do with that inventory? How are you going to sell it off? You're subject to certain pricing, minimum advertised pricing, and things like that. So you can't really, may not be able to discount the gear to move it along. And then a big one that bothered me more than anything, if I was considering moving on, is how are you going to service the customers that you sold that gear to, of the manufacturer that you're discontinuing, because you're not going to be able to get the repair parts, you're not going to be able to keep up with the training and things like that. And that's a big one that you have to have figured out, is how are you going to service that gear that you sold that person a year or two ago? It's not an easy one. And then finally, the last thing I think you want to make sure of is that you have your message, your communication out to your customers about why you're moving on from that product line or from that manufacturer. You have to give a clear, concise message to your customers why you're doing it, and ensure that your staff is echoing that same message out to your customers. I mean, they may not like the fact that you're moving on from something, but it's a business decision. So communication is really important. I mean, I know for me, I would be impatient. It's like, okay, it's time to move. And then you have to take a step back and say, well, let's really think about all the considerations for moving on. But yeah, it's still a problem. I think there's still challenges out there in the industry with some supply chains and things like that. And hopefully it'll get better. But when you want to move on, just think it through.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a dive shop out there and you're listening to this, you work for a shop, Jeff has written an incredible series, probably up to 15 or 16, 18 issues. I don't know, maybe you've been almost in 20, but this whole series is very tactical. If you're a dive shop, it's very solid information, inventory, how to do this, how to find this POS system. It's very tactical. So if you're a dive shop out there and you're looking for some tricks and tips of trying to get better at your craft, search for Jeff, because he's going to have to actually put Jeff C in, because if you put Jeff, we got a bunch of Jeffs to write for us.
Maybe I should write a book, huh?
Yeah, you know what? I happen to know a publisher.
All right. There you go. Well, thanks for that, Jeff. All right, next up, we got Gretchen Ashton. So page 28, fitness motivation for dive shop. She's already motivating us for joining us today from our workout room. But Gretchen, tell us, how can retailers increase profits with fitness programs? What do you think?
Okay. So the first word that comes to mind right now at the beginning of a new year is longevity. You don't have to start over every year. You can pick up where you are now and move forward with all of the great things that you've learned and have working for you now, and then just add some more to it. So adding fitness into concepts for the dive industry might be adding something new to your awareness, to your dive shop marketing. And I think it really depends on the shop. Obviously, we've talked about some of the things like leasing out a pool for a fitness class when the pool's not being used for dive instruction. But some of the other things could include just simply advertising your group trips at a fitness center on their board. Fitness folks are typically adventurous, and obviously scuba diving brings a lot of adventure. So if you've got a group trip planned down the road and you want to invite someone to go along with you, a gym is a great place to advertise. We have 3 million divers in the United States, about
Yeah,
something
pretty
like
close. Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So in the United States, we have 77 million gym members. and 247 million people in the country that do at least one exercise activity.
That's
So
big numbers. Wow.
it almost sounds like, how could we not have clients that are involved in fitness rather than, I mean, like, how do we avoid them, right? But I do want to share that when I first started diving back in 2000, I was already a fitness professional. I'd already been exercising. I was a competitive athlete. And I never thought once about whether I would be able to perform any of the activities of diving. My dive buddy and I were just talking about this the other day because we have aged and diving feels a little different. But back then, everything that came to us in our diving experience, we were absolutely physically prepared for, and we never gave it a second thought. And so I think there's some real advantages to reaching out to folks that might be willing to be adventurous, to come into the shop and get certified, to go traveling with you, to advance their training, because fit divers are more likely to dive more often, advance their training, and just be just open and interested in that market. When I opened my fitness studio, I worked in big gyms, and I realized there was a client base for a market outside the gym, not in the gym. And so while I took good care of the clients in the gym, I actually went out and opened up one of the first private studios in my area, which is sort of unheard of at the time, and had a great following of people who were looking for that type of one-on-one environment. So hope
So
that helps.
if you're a dive shop out there and you've got either access to pool or you have a pool, and a large percentage of retailers, I think I've seen somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% own a pool or have access to their own pool. I'll guarantee you that 90% of those people have that pool available from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m., pretty much sitting all day long, just burning chlorine and heat. So, there's no reason you couldn't start an aqua fitness program over the lunch hour, for instance, in your shop. It's just a mentality. And here's another problem too. If you're a dive shop out there, how do you get started? She has an entire program off the shelf. Bam. She'll send you all the materials, everything you need to do. You don't have to teach it. It's all set up, and she's got it all under control. So she has a program called Scuba Fit. It's worth looking into. I love this series because I love anything for a dive shop that creates an alternate form of income. It's called ancillary income. You already got all the expenses of the shop and the pool and everything else running. That's why I love when people talk about the mermaid classes or the swim classes. And it's just a great utilization of the exact same assets. And it's also a feeder for your customers.
Right. You don't need weights. We got dive tanks.
Exactly.
Don't need kettlebells. There's some hot dive yoga.
Don't need
Throw it in there.
Weight belts.
That's
Weight
right.
belts. There you
Weight
go.
belts,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Exactly. Good stuff, Gretchen.
Yes,
keep
thank
us
you,
in
Gretchen.
shape. All right, let's move on to our buddy Tech Clark, to be specific. Page 20 of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, Part 1. New revenue streams at colleges and universities. So you have a new program to help retailers start college and university programs. Tech, tell us about it. What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to see everybody. Yeah, so, if you think about it, we're always looking for different audiences, different groups, different locations. And when you take a big picture and look at the United States alone, we have over 4,000 colleges and university campuses in the United States. And what's really interesting is 87% of them have at least one pool. So in our towns, around our dive professionals or nearby areas or nearby towns, we've got this beautiful opportunity of a whole diverse client group, and that is the college student. The college student is young, healthy, motivated, eager to learn. And although we kind of compartmentalize them in a Generation Z approach, and we look at, certain stereotypes about that generation, or maybe they don't have enough money to do this or that or the other thing, it couldn't be further from the truth of what activities there are to do with them and how you can get your foot in the door at a university. So that is what I'm preaching, and that's what, yes, this new course is, the Campus Edge course that I created, the online course. And it is all about getting dive instructors the tools to get into colleges and universities. That's it. I've worked at 4 colleges and universities. I've managed 2 of them, and the 2 that I manage happen to become the top 3 largest university dive programs in the nation, and they're both award-winning. And there's a reason for it, and the reason is because of the great training, the great safety, the popularity among students. We just did things right. And since 1988, that's where I got started at a university. And, my last 14 years were at a university. And so with that, this whole program goes over where can you get your foot in the door. And for any instructor that's out there that said, hey, I tried my local university, oh my goodness. I've heard that so many times. And I said, well, what'd you do? How'd you do it? And as soon as they rattle off a few things, I just shake my head and go, no, sorry, that's not how universities work. That's not how these people respond to that. No. So this is all the strategies to get in, and it doesn't matter. It could be academic classes, which is the highest tier. Like, right, you want to teach a 15-week scuba class that gives academic credit. Great. I can get you there. But there's much easier ways. And that could be recreational classes for not credit, right? And that could be done through recreation or aquatics. But then what about helping a college professor with their field trips that they're going on? They're snorkeling like crazy, going all over doing field observations, but they don't have the supervision talents that you have. They don't know the safety side of things. So they're sitting there dealing with kids that can't equalize, can't clear a snorkel or a mask, get cramps, panic. They don't know what to do. You come along and say, I'll teach a snorkeling class for you, and I'll help you out on your trips, and I'll organize the trips and supervise them. It's a game changer for the professors. And then they talk about you like crazy to the rest of their colleagues. And voila, you're in the door. You've got your first courses there. That's one area. Leasing the pools at a university. If there's nothing else you can do, if you want to get into it, there's a certain way to do it, and there's a certain way to get it for less than they tell the regular public. And I go over all that too. And then finally, scuba clubs. Scuba clubs are huge on campuses, and they usually have a faculty advisor. That advisor is never a dive pro. I mean, it's a professor, right? And so the thing is, you can sit there and really pitch safety and training. And when you get your foot in the door for helping out with a dive club, now all of a sudden, here's where the continuing education comes, or the refreshers every semester. It just opens doors, and that's the whole program. That is what I'm doing now. And this course that I have even has a 1-hour consultation with me where I just help find the right way for somebody to pitch and design and operate a dive program at a university. So that's what it's all about, and I'm pretty excited about it.
And Tech, you were telling me earlier that it takes about 3.5 hours to go through the programming, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, we're not talking weeks worth of trouble. You could do this before lunch on any given day if you're a dive shop out there and learn the basics, and then get with Tech, of course, in the consulting to figure out how to do it. So we actually are partnering with him and supporting this program because we believe that retailers always need another way of making money. And this is something that every town pretty much has in America.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And globally too. The same principles will work globally.
He's been doing it a few years there. So he definitely knows his stuff.
He's the expert.
He's the guru. Absolutely. When it comes to that. All right. Good stuff, Tech. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
all right. Let's move on to page 28. Florida's Panhandle Shipwrecks of the Emerald Coast, written by Michael Salvarezza. I'm sure I butchered that one.
And Chris Weaver. Sorry,
and Chris.
I left him off the script here, but they wrote this article together. Yeah. So these guys reached out to me, I don't know, a month or so ago, and I was fascinated by the article. They'd actually written for Diver Magazine for the Roark Media folks, and it was beautiful, beautiful. But that area has so much attention right now in the media because of the sinking, the possible sinking of the United States, but of all all the other wrecks they've got down there, it's really turned into be like a huge destination for diving. And I thought, if you're a shop and you're located anywhere in a 600-mile radius, which is a one long day drive, you could load up and do a carpool down and take your own group without having to have a huge amount of lead time, and you could pull a nice group together and have a group trip there. But I don't think that a lot of people understand where you go. What are the wrecks? And turns out there's a ton of them. And if you look
they just sank the Black Pearl from the Pirates of the Caribbean in that neck of the woods. Isn't that right,
Absolutely.
Michael? Tell us about
that's right. Yeah, so, and Willie was just taking a lot of what I was going to talk about, but exactly
what
right.
we do.
A lot of people, when you're thinking about dive destinations and you're thinking about domestic dive destinations, not the international exotic location. You know, the Florida Keys, the west coast of Florida, maybe North Carolina with those wrecks there. I don't think the Gulf Coast gets as much press as these other locations. And you're right, William, that you know, if you're in that general area, 600 miles maybe, you can drive there, but it's also easy to fly there. It's you know, several gateway airports there, Pensacola, for example. The Florida Artificial Reef Program is extremely active. There are hundreds of artificial reefs in these waters. Many of them are shipwrecks, and they're not all the same type of ship. There's a vast majority, of a vast, I should say, array of different types of ships. Anything from old tugboats and sort of oil and gas workboats to aircraft carriers.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I just put the map up on the screen because now I'm talking, it's big enough people can see it. That just gives you an idea of the wrecks off the coast there. It's a staggering number. So sorry, continue.
It is a staggering number. And what's neat about it is that it doesn't really matter what experience you have. If you're organizing a trip to go there, you can bring tech divers, you can bring beginner divers, you can bring, you know, sort of divers with advanced certification. There's wrecks at different depths for different skill levels. The Oriskany, for example, probably the biggest name currently, sunken aircraft carrier, went down in 2006 in 212 feet of water to the bottom. But you can reach that wreck in 80 feet or so, 75 feet. And as you might imagine, it's been down now almost, well, I guess 20 years now, completely overgrown with marine life. A lot of people, you know, are thinking about the ships and the wrecks, but there's everything from mackerel to spadefish to schools of barracuda to Goliath grouper, all kinds of stuff. So I think organizing a trip to the Panhandle in that area comes with a lot of opportunity for interesting dives. A couple of tips: the boats, the dive boats. There are a lot of them. Not a lot. There's a bunch of them. They're more often of the 6-pack nature than the larger dive boat that you might be familiar with. So if you're planning a trip, you got to kind of organize the group size and maybe the boats that you're chartering. But you could, for example, you could have one boat going out to the Oriskany with some of your group, and you could have another boat going out to some of the inshore wrecks with other members of your group and swap it up. There's a lot of different approaches. The other thing is they don't usually provide tanks, so you got to make sure you're working with a local dive shop to bring the tank and the weights, unless you're driving and you bring your own stuff. You did mention the SS United States, and that is going to be a real game changer in that area. The United States is a massive former luxury liner. I'm going to ask Chris Weaver to talk a little bit about that wreck, which is not yet sunk, but it will change the game.
Well, it's going to be like the biggest in the world artificial reef. Is that right, Chris?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
It's definitely going to be the biggest. 990 feet, 101 foot beam. It's going to be a world-class wreck, assuming it goes down. Yes, expecting it hopefully in mid-February sometime if the weather's good. They're expecting it to maybe put it out about 20 to 23 miles south of Destin. They're going to cut the stacks off, and hopefully, if everything goes well, they're going to hopefully sink it in 180 feet. And then, again, if the gods are great, the top deck hopefully will be between 55 to 60 feet, which will be a perfect depth for all, dive experiences and levels.
Right. Oh, that's
yeah,
excellent.
And when we were there, Chris and I went to see it in the dock in Mobile, Alabama, where it's being readied, so that you can imagine the operation to clean a vessel like that. It's just enormous. But we talked with some of the dive shops down there, and they are absolutely poised for a game-changing event. There was one boat that we were diving with. He said, "I'm going to buy a second boat just to deal with the expected crowd that's going to be coming." The other dive shops are completely rejiggering their schedules to anticipate, every single day dive trips out to the United States. So it's really going to bring an influx of divers from around the world, And so I would say if you're planning a trip there and you're going to bring a group down there, start planning it now because it's going to be probably difficult to get spots on those boats initially anyway.
Right. Right. Yeah. How many are you usually on a wreck like that? They'll set up a bunch of mooring buoys on the actual wrecks. Have you already worked that out, Chris? Or are you guys still managing that?
I don't think they said they're going to put any mooring buoys because of something with traffic and stuff like that. Because I know a lot of the other wrecks that are there now, they don't have those.
Okay.
So they're going to have to talk to the state to find out whether or not they're going to be able to put those on there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, the dive operators will find a way to get the divers out there for sure.
They sure will. But thanks for that great article, both of you. And they have run a company called Eco Photo Explorers. So go check them out. They've got some great photos on their site, and they're great photographers. So any other ideas you guys have, we're all game. But I love this. I love the focus on that northern Florida area. It's just there's going to be some big things, like you said, happening with this United States thing. So thanks again for writing for us.
You're welcome.
Go.
Greg, I'm going to switch gears here. So last month we had an article by Kramer Wimberly, and he is last but definitely not least. And last month we had a mix-up on my part, and he didn't get the invite he was supposed to get for the podcast. And so his article was so important, I wanted to have him on our show, and he needs to talk about it because I got to be honest with you. I've never had Samuel Jackson as a photo in our magazine before. And on page 42 of last month's issue, he talks a little bit about his program and about the fundraisers they've done at the History of Diving Museum with some incredible celebrities, but more importantly, what it is they do as a mission. And it's a really cool mission. So I'm going to give you back to you, Jeff, and Greg, and you can bring him in.
Well, Kramer, welcome, and so tell us, what does Samuel Jackson and Diving with a Purpose have in common, other than they're both extremely cool? Yeah, things to do and be.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I'm kind of behind the curve because everybody else has done like multiple articles here, so I need to get to writing, apparently.
Yes, you do.
Right. Simon Jackson was generous enough to lend his time, his voice, and some of his finances to a 6-part miniseries or docuseries on the transatlantic slave trade back in 2019. So I had the opportunity to work with him on 6 series that actually originated with a ship associated with the transatlantic slave trade that came out of the Florida Keys, the slave ship Guerrero. And that particular ship was the rationale behind the development of the organization that I represent, Diving with a Purpose. Right. And also working on that miniseries, he provided me with some funding to help my youth program that I started to address the damaging effects of climate change and what we need to do as divers, non-divers, adults, youth, dive professionals to address the decline in the coral reef ecosystem. So my program is called CARES, a collective approach to restoring our ecosystem. So we go out, we do community education presentations to anyone that will listen. We do a host of trash derbies to remove trash and debris from the ocean. We engage in coral ecosystem monitoring, and we partner with organizations to do ocean healing, outplanting corals and sponges back out onto the reef to try and heal the reef and restore it back into health, to hopefully prevent the dive industry and people from sending divers to the other side of the world to enjoy the coral reefs. The idea is to help to restore the coral reefs in the Caribbean and make the Caribbean a dive destination again.
It's very cool. Very cool effort.
Yeah. How do people get involved in this? Exactly. Is there a website or something, Kramer, they can go to too?
Diving with a Purpose has a website, divingwithapurpose.org, and Diving with a Purpose DWP Cares is also has their website also. So anyone who wants to can participate. We go about training, like I said, non-divers about their relationship with the ocean and how to engage sustainably without damaging the coral reef.
Right. And I got to ask, I do got to ask though, Samuel Jackson, coolest man on the planet or what? Diver or non-diver, doesn't matter, right?
Diver or non-diver, Sam's a diver, right? And yes, absolutely, right. The support that he's given me has actually allowed me to expand my youth program so we could do a phenomenal amount of work, and it helped for the last 5 or 6 years. So
well, he just went up a notch or two in my world, knowing that he's a scuba diver and doing good work like that.
Since we've already published this image, I guess I can go ahead and show you. So this was right out of our issue last month. If you haven't seen it on page, I think it was 47. But it's a really great article, not just because it got Samuel Jackson in it, but it really talks about in more detail what their mission is. And we need a lot more people like doing what you're doing there, Kramer. So thank you so much. Yeah, Gil, question?
Yeah, what do you got, Gil?
I was fortunate enough to meet Kenneth Stewart, who created Diving with Purpose a few years ago through Michael Manduno, and I interviewed him for an in-depth story on In-Depth magazine. And he's an amazing man who has trained over 500 African Americans to dive. It might be a lot more than that. Maybe you can add to that, Kramer.
It's several hundred, but he doesn't just train African Americans. He trains everybody. He focuses on youth in Tennessee, trying to get them to appreciate the outdoor world. And yes, he is a phenomenal person. And I absolutely hate him because I was retired and he drew me in.
Sucked you back in, huh?
Yeah.
He's probably grooming you to take his place because he's nearly 80.
He's a visionary.
Thank you, everybody, for this.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Kramer. Thank you, everybody, for this issue. Greg, we're close to finishing up here. Yep. Next month, we have some really cool things coming. Of course, Al Hornsby has been writing this incredible series for us, and they're one-page zingers, I call them. He's dealt with more litigation and lawsuits in the diving industry than any single person. As the former legal executive over at Patty for decades, so he writes these really succinct articles. He's writing another one next month on liability, which has been his champion. Gil has a fabulous article coming out on the famous Liz Parkinson, which happens to be, and it's so sad that Britton's not here today, but that was Britton's instructor. Britton and Cam and my two kids. She was working at Stuart Coves at the time and certified them both. So she's gone on to become one of the most popular women in Hollywood for doing stunt work. Just finishing up on the Avatar series.
Yeah,
mostly.
The Avatar movie just came out. Yeah, and
then we have Dan doing a rule of 3, and then Alex, unfortunately, is on his way to Bonaire, boo-hoo, but he couldn't be here, but wrote a beautiful article on why dive destinations need to really seriously consider the sustainability aspect for the diving industry. So it's going to be a great article. Mark Hatter, which had, I believe, I want to say it was, I can't remember which issue it was. Maybe it was our November. No, this has been our August issue. Anyhow, we've got an article on Kwajalein, diving in Kwajalein, which is in the Marshall Islands. It's kind of it's a military base, but there is places and ways that people can get to the wrecks of there. And he's featuring an over-under shot of one of the famous wrecks in Kwajalein Bay. So it's just spectacular. So that's it for us. Thank you, Greg. Thanks for co-producing a great show with us. And thank you, all of our writers. Don't forget, our deadlines are always on the 15th. If you're out there and you want to write for us, reach out to us.
Yeah, if you're a diver, you got what it takes, pretty much. All right, well, that'll do it for our first Level Up podcast for 2026. Until next time, check out Scuba Radio in the meantime every Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern Time, and we'll see you there. Till then, though, remember, it's always better. Where, Willie?
Down where it's wetter.
That's it.
This has been Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Produced by Scuba Radio and the Klein Group. For more info, go to ScubaDivingIndustry.com.